There's always been a cultural understanding of Ubuntu in South Africa. And it's no different to other parts of Africa. And it basically says, I exist because you exist. And together, we can make the change for good. I think Africa is the world's best kept secret in terms of travel. It's exciting to share Africa with the world. It is exciting to tell the stories of Africa because once people hear it, they are awakened at what is possible when they travel to Africa.
Welcome back to Passport Diaries, a travel podcast by Travel Store. And on today's episode, we are taking our passports to go get stamped in Africa as we talk to Sherwin Banda, who is the president of African Travel, one of our safari partners that our travel experts work with when planning safaris all over Africa. This is actually part one of a series that we're doing with African Travel. And this episode is going to be all about what it means to travel to Africa, what it means for the local communities, for conservation efforts, and how at the end of the day, traveling to Africa and going on safari and being up close and personal with these peoples, these cultures, these animals is life-changing, not only for the people who are on safari and visiting, but for Sherwin himself. He shares some really great personal stories of how travel changed his life. On the video portion of our podcast, we'll be showing some beautiful photos and videos from Katie Kadar, who is also an Africa specialist. And she has traveled with Sherwin to South Africa, so you'll see some of those photos and videos, as well as to other places like Kenya and Tanzania. So thanks for being here with us, and we hope you enjoyed part one of our series with African Travel. I kind of just want to start with what do you love about bringing people to Africa for the first time? First timers.
Oh my God, I love that question. The only way to answer it is, it's like going, for me, it's going home and showcasing the place that I love and bringing that and sharing that with people. You know, when you like have people over for dinner and you cook them a meal,
Yeah.
and the best part of the meal is watching them eat. And when people see and meet Africans, there is a familiarity there that is felt and understood when they say hello. It's a heart to heart soul connection. And then taking them on these journeys and having them experience, the food, the lifestyle, the cities, and most importantly, meeting Africa's ancient cultures and wildlife. There's a saying that Africans often say, you can leave Africa, but Africa will never leave you. It becomes part of your soul because you traveled. I often say travel is the best education of bringing hearts together and cultivating understanding and internalizing that meaning because you took the journey. That's the part that gives me goosebumps.
Yeah.
Because I know Africa is amazing. I've lived in Africa, I've breathed Africa, but to see how Africa touches people in real, meaningful ways, that to me is a blessing.
Yeah. And this is true for every part of Africa. Like I've always heard, I know it's a big generalization to say Africa is such a warm and inviting place. Well, Africa is a very big place. There's a lot of, different cultures, different peoples across the whole continent. But it does seem to be very true that Africa as a whole, the peoples, the cultures, no matter how different they are are very, very welcoming and warm.
Yes, yes. One of the best things about Africa, I think, well, there's many, many amazing things and reasons why to go. But meeting the people of Africa, there is a genuine sense of hospitality. And they are so thrilled that people have chosen to come and see them and visit their homeland.
Hmm.
But they are equally excited to tell their stories and to share why living in Africa and being there is more than just a home, it's a feeling.
Mm.
And that feeling is what you feel when you meet them, regardless of which country you go to. The the wildlife is great, the food is great, but the reason why people return is because of the people they met during that journey.
Is that a common um, misconception that people have, is that Africa is just about the wildlife, or it's just about going out and, going on game drives and going to see the big, incredible, amazing animals, of course. But is that something that people come to you with, which is like, okay, I'm going to come see animals and then what?
Right, right. So most people will tell us they're going to Africa for the wildlife.
Mhm.
The biggest surprise is everything else. Africa is so much more than the wildlife. While
Yeah.
the wildlife certainly is going to capture not only your reality and your imagination and the awe of seeing this wildlife firsthand, because you cannot see this wildlife in any other part of the world.
Yeah.
But Africa is a place of diversity, it is a place of influence. Most people, one of my fascinating experiences is when I travel to other countries other than Africa.
Mhm.
So, for example, I've been to Brazil and I've always wanted to see capoeira, which is the dance that they do. And I realized that it's an African dance.
Mm.
Its roots and its origins come from Africa. And Africa has influenced other parts of the world, which we love. Um, and it's the greatest export. Well, the reason why a lot of people want to come to Africa is the wildlife. The export is everything else.
Yeah.
And I love that because one of my famous, when I look at customer feedback and
Mhm.
surveys, the underlining thread that people say was, I didn't know. Or something like, it was more than what I thought it would be. And I love hearing that.
Yeah.
I think Africa is the world's best kept secret in terms of travel because the percentage of global travel that touches the continent of Africa is less than 10%.
Really?
Yes. And that's according to statistics. Yet the impact of the people who visit is far greater. So it's exciting to share Africa with the world. It is exciting to tell the stories of Africa because once people hear it, they are awakened at what is possible when they travel to Africa. And Africa is not monolithic, right?
Right.
Every country is completely unique. And even though I'm a born African, when I travel to other parts of Africa, I don't understand the language. The
Yeah.
culture and traditions are completely different to mine. While there may be common threads or some similarities, every region is unique and every experience is different.
Mm.
For example, some people would say, okay, I want to go and experience the wildlife. Let's say in Kenya, for example. One of the most amazing and unique things is there are different species of wildlife in different parts of Kenya. Same like you would go to South Africa. What may look like a zebra as being the same, they are two different species. They are
Mm.
bigger, they are smaller. And so the wildlife education that you get just from the going on game drives is completely different region to region.
So, what are some of the animals that you can't find anywhere else that you find in very specific and different regions of Africa?
Well, that's a great question. Let's start with the most obvious, gorillas.
Yeah.
Gorillas you will only find in certain parts of Africa, and typically they would be in the Virunga Mountains. So, for example, Rwanda, Uganda, or the Congo. Those are the only places where you can see gorillas.
Mm.
And when you go there, a fascinating feature that I didn't know until I was there. Gorillas share 99% of human DNA.
Yes. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Isn't that just like so amazing?
Yes. Yes.
So gorillas are just in, the Virunga Mountains of East Africa or Congo or Central Africa. You can only find some species in certain parts of Africa. So, for example, a fun fact: Ethiopia has wolves. It's the
Oh,
only country in Africa that has wolves or bleeding heart monkeys.
what is a bleeding heart monkey?
When you look at the monkey, or it actually has a red patch where people would identify the heart region.
Oh.
Fascinating species. You can only find that in Ethiopia. Uh, in South Africa, we have zebra, but there is a what we call the Cape zebra. It is a
Mm.
shorter zebra, and you can only find it in the Western Cape, which is the Cape Province, on the Table Mountain Reserve. That's the only place that you can have it. In Kenya, in East Africa, there are species of ostrich or gerenuk, which are looks like a plains animal, but it's a very, very different species. The reticulated giraffe, which is a completely different giraffe species that you will find anywhere else on safari. And
Huh.
then there are those animals, of course, that you can find throughout all of Africa. But if you are a wildlife enthusiast, finding these species and traveling to all of these different parts of Africa um, is really a bucket list experience because, first of all, you're not going to be able to find it anywhere else other than by just going to these specific regions.
Yeah. What about I love hearing about the smaller scale animals. Like we of
Uh,
course see the glossy, gorgeous, stunning photos of giraffes, elephants, gorillas. What about the little guys?
the little guys
Yeah.
are the absolute best. Growing up and going on safari was always an interesting thing, and most people are always excited to see the animals that has become synonymous with Africa. So most people would think of the big five as an
Hmm.
example. Um, but until I went on my first safari and understood the role of Africa's littlest fives, one being the dung beetle.
Yes.
You are not going to see the dung beetle by sitting in a vehicle. But the moment you get out of the vehicle, you will look at the savannah floor and you will see beetles pushing dung to their nest. And it may seem like, oh, this is just, irrelevant to why I am coming on safari. But you quickly learn that if it wasn't for the African dung beetle, the savanna floor would not be fertilized in a way that allows the fresh grass to grow after the rains. They are pushing the elephant dung from one place or all over the savanna floor, and the undigested nutrients that is found in the dung as they roll it across the savanna floor,
Oh,
they're leaving trails everywhere on the savanna. And so when the next rain comes, fertilization happens. And the new trees, the new grass, the new seedlings develop into food for Africa's wildlife. So understanding, you know, how the whole ecosystem is affected by the littlest, it's because the giants exist because they came first.
yeah. Yeah.
Fascinating.
And to be able to see it in action. I mean, like, I grew up watching VHS tapes of National Geographic, and of course, they're following the dung beetles and, the little tiny guys up to the big, big beasts of the wild. But being able to see both right in front of you, or get down and be very, very quiet and wait to see, hopefully, a little dung beetle scooching on by, and then you're just looking at the circle of life and the ecosystem playing out in front of you.
It's pretty spectacular.
Whew,
It
yeah.
is pretty spectacular. And that's the thing about going on safari. You have something around every corner. And you don't know what you're going to find until you make that turn. So, one of the most fascinating things, and now we're talking about some of the bigger animals, but one of my favorite animals to see is the leopard. They are so elusive. And when you look at it with the untrained eye, it looks like there is nothing. And then all of a sudden, the guide would point your attention to a particular part of the bush. And all of a sudden, there it is. The
Oh.
leopard has been camouflaged by its coat and its surroundings.
Mm.
There is a moment of complete awe and silence as you just take in what you are actually looking at. Most people will never find a leopard unless they have gone with a trained guide who knows where to find and what to look for.
Mm-hmm.
And most safari camps where our clients are going to stay will have a guide and a tracker.
Oh, what's the difference?
The tracker sits on a chair in front of the vehicle. And the tracker is looking at the floor or into the distances for movements or tracks of animals.
Oh.
And so they would follow the tracks of the animals, or if they spot something in the distance, they would direct the guide, the ranger, to go into a specific area and find this wildlife. 9 times out of 10, if you make a wish to see an animal, you are probably going to find it on safari. That's how well trained these guides and rangers are when they take people out on these game drives.
Something that I've always been curious about is when you're going out on safari and taking vehicles, how used to the vehicles either are the animals, or how much of blending into the environment do these small groups have to be aware of in order to kind of allow the animals not to be spooked if they can be spooked, or to just be around them? How does it work?
It's a great question because most people don't know. There's a lot of things that's going on that is unbeknown to the people in the vehicle. So, first of all, one of the things that we love to educate our travelers are when they go on safari, choose to wear neutral colors. So you blend in with the surroundings and not stand out.
Mm-hmm.
Animals don't necessarily see individual people, they see a shape. So the vehicle would be a shape. And while you are in the vehicle, it's pretty safe. And the guides and the rangers are very mindful about where these animals are and not to congregate together in one spot. So when you go on safari, if there's a sighting, the safari guide would radio to all the guides in the area, in the nearby area. I am here. I'm here at a elephant sighting. They know that they have to hang back
Not everybody
and
in.
not all congregate in one space.
Yeah.
And that's largely because being responsible for the wildlife
Hmm.
means that they are supposed to be protected, and it needs to, we are in their environment, not them in ours.
Oh yeah.
So there is a great care for the wildlife when you are on safari.
Mhm.
And wildlife will continue to come to the area because it is safe for them. I've always, what's impressed me the most is the amount of care these guides and lodgers and trackers have in terms of the responsibility that they have for these animals and for the people who are there to see it.
I would love to start talking about conservation and what it means to blend the impact of travel and the necessity of travel together in order to, be good stewards of the planet, the earth, but these sections of wildlife that are in danger, and what safaris do to help, and how travelers actually are kind of a needed part of the ecosystem.
100%. First of all, Africa's lifeblood in terms of growth is tourism.
Mm-hmm.
Tourism is such a key cornerstone to economic development for the African continent. If people didn't come and invest and travel to Africa, Africa could not, with its infrastructure, grow and provide jobs
Yes.
to most families. So, why travel to Africa? That's probably the most important. At African Travel, we are part of the Travel Corporation, and we are the only company that has trademarked Make Travel Matter. And so people ask, well, why is that such a big deal? And I can give you my personal story. I was born in 1973 in South Africa during the time of apartheid.
Mm.
And what that meant is we had a system of legal separation, which meant someone like me would not have access to the same education, income potential than my white citizens, counterparts of South Africa. And so my first experience of rubbing shoulder to shoulder with people who didn't look like me came because I was working in hotels
Oh.
and or people that were coming into my community, all these foreigners that were coming in. And they were so eager to hear my story, to meet me. So much so that working in hotels paved the way for me to leave South Africa and go and work in Europe and
Mm.
then come to the United States. I then left and went back to South Africa. I, because of my experience outside of South Africa, I was the first Black GM for a 5-star luxury property.
Wow.
And because of the potential recognized in me, I was sent to Cornell University. And this was because tourism came in and made a difference in a way that I could not do it for myself living only in South Africa.
Right.
So it makes a difference when people choose to buy their travel purchase with a company that has a proven track record with regards to sustainability. The proceeds of that travel goes directly into the local communities
Mm-hmm.
and building in their investment and commitment to education and protection of traditions because people want that when they visit. So that's the human aspect. The wildlife aspect. In Africa, most of the regions where wildlife roam, they are protected areas. And in most cases, the people who have taken responsibility for that land has lived there for generations. They don't have access to urban centers, but they hold the traditions of our people. And they are the custodians of that land.
Mm.
So, what the government does is say, fine, we are going to lease this land from you, and people who come are going to pay a concession fee.
Oh.
That concession fee protects the investment of that land, but it gets given back to the community and the protected areas for the wildlife to roam free. So every dollar that comes is done to protect causes, to protect wildlife. For example, there would be anti poaching units because poaching is a real threat today in Africa to the wildlife of Africa.
Yeah.
If we did not visit those destinations and support those areas, they would not get the funds to employ people to protect these animals.
Yeah.
So that's firstly. Secondly, most countries, the best example could probably be, I mean, all of them are, but Botswana is a great example. Botswana has limited the size of camps. So you will not find a camp next to a camp, next to a camp, next to a camp
Yeah.
within eyesight, because the less or the fewer people out on safari means that the animals have greater space to roam. Apart from the concessions that are subleased and the money that comes in for wildlife, there's also the commitment to not only protect the area, but protect the surrounding area. So the greatest threat today, other than harming animals on the wild, is urban centers growing and deforest or taking up forest land, and that vegetation is essential.
Mm-hmm.
So the other part that the conservation fees help with is keeping a buffer zone to the safari areas so that human encroachment does not harm Africa's wildlife, because the farming lands around the buffer zone, we don't want that cattle to come into the safari region, and
Mm-hmm.
that just cause animal and human wildlife conflict. So there's a lot of reasons why you choose to go on safari, and how this money directly impacts not only the local communities, but also the wildlife. The third part, which we like to call the planet, being responsible custodians, is how do we then invest that so that we don't have, a greenhouse effect with what we build
Yeah.
in those safari areas. So a lot of the money that supports tourism actually goes in to building solar panels to provide energy
Yeah.
to the lodges so that we don't have power lines. The greatest harm that comes to birds in the wild,
Mm-hmm.
power lines.
Mm-hmm.
There's an example of a success story because vultures often go into the high trees or sits on high elevations, and those who got harmed or hurt, they would be taken, and we now support a breeding program for vultures uh, at Sherwin, which is a game reserve in the Eastern Cape. It's the first successful vulture breeding program called
Oh.
Vulpro. And these birds that can no longer fly can still breed. And so the offspring, or once they are nursed to good health, they are taken and released into the wild.
Mm-hmm.
And so no, people ask, well, you know, vultures, I mean, what do they do? They're not pretty to look at. Why do we want to protect them? They are the cleanup parade
Yes.
of the bush.
Mm-hmm.
If they did not eat the rotting flesh of dead animals, other wildlife that feed on these animals will actually pick up diseases
Yeah.
and die.
Yeah.
They are so essential to the evolution experience while being on safari. So,
Mm-hmm.
sustainability has far reaching impacts in Africa, because tourists come.
Yes.
And the three biggest pillars that sustainability supports: local communities in terms of economic empowerment.
Mm-hmm.
It supports wildlife in terms of responsible practices and making sure that we nurse and protect Africa's wildlife and reintroduce them into the wild. And the third part is being responsible custodians of the land, of the planet, to make sure that these animals can grow and thrive, that Africa's cultures are protected and maintained by economic investment, and that in total supports Africa's greater economy.
Yes. That right there is when people think sustainability, it is so much more than just recycling a plastic bottle. It's
100%.
holistic operation. And just like what you
Yes.
said about the vultures, I recently visited the LA Zoo and they were talking about the California
Yes.
condor breeding program.
Yes.
And same thing, I don't know her title, but the person there who was giving us the tour was saying, yes, people say, why the condor? They're so scary and icky. She was like, they are so immensely important. Just like the dung beetle, the condor, every piece they are so intertwined, and that's sustainability.
100%.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
Sustainability is making sure that once we are the custodians of our land today, but we have to be responsible, and the gift of giving is making sure that we can give this land, give this world to the next generation so that they can continue to take it forward, grow, and thrive. That's the reason why we exist. I
Mm-hmm.
love this idea. Nelson Mandela is well known throughout the world. Um, but there's always been a, a cultural understanding of Ubuntu in South Africa. And it's no different to other parts of Africa. And it basically says, I exist because you exist. And together, we can make the change for good. And that sense of community is a global phenomenon.
Mm-hmm.
We are part of a global community to support one another in meaningful and real ways, because what happens in Africa does affect other parts of the world and vice versa. And tourism and travel, in my the way I understand it and see it, is the change for good. When we go and travel, we are changed, hopefully for the better, and
Mm-hmm.
we've learned something new about ourselves and about others that creates a bridge to understanding.
Yes. I completely believe that even someone who is closed off or not expecting to be exposed to other cultures or not in the mindset when they're going on vacation, that when they go to places that are so rich in culture and meaning and history and with people who are welcoming and inviting and warm, they can't help but be bettered for it. No matter how
100%.
Yeah, no matter their intention going in, you can't help but be moved by that experience.
Travel has changed my life in many, many, many ways. I can share two stories.
Mm.
I met my husband because he traveled to South Africa. And I would have never met him had he not traveled.
Mm-hmm.
And now, what, 24 years later? Um, During that time, we traveled to South Africa and fell in love with kids when we went to a foster center.
Mm-hmm.
A year later, we moved back. and we adopted our son,
Oh.
who is now 13 years old. And that's because we chose to travel.
Mm-hmm.
I would have never had this reach of an experience had travel not been such a core part of who I am. And my learning because of it has allowed me to live a life in travel and support my family because of it.
Mm-hmm.
So, yes, I like to say travel makes you smarter.
Yeah. It just makes you better people.
Just makes you better people.
We need to change subjects because I am getting a little choked up. Like the sweet stories. I'm a pretty easy crier. So we need to do something else.
For sure.
Thank you for joining us for part 1 of our series with Sherwin Banda from African Travel. And on the next few episodes, we're going to be talking about so much more, like myths about traveling to Africa, safari expectations, where to go, art, food, culture. We're going to cover a lot, so stick around. If you can't get enough Africa, jump on over to our website because we have tons of blogs and different experiences all over Africa that you can check out. You can filter and find an advisor who specializes in Africa, reach out to them, hear more about their personal stories and their experiences so you can get an idea of where to start if you've always wanted to go. And then don't forget to follow us wherever you get your podcasts. We're Passport Diaries by Travel Store. Until next time, safe travels from all of us here at Travel Store.